Hello everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to episode 6 of module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're officially on the downhill slope of module 2. We've passed the halfway point, and the momentum we're seeing from all of you in the community is just fantastic.
It really is. We've spent the first half of this module, which we call the Rhythm of Fluency, building your physical foundation. We've talked about sentence stress, the lazy schwa sound, connected speech, intonation, and in our last episode, the incredible power of the pause.
Use thought groups and silent pauses to command a room.
But today, we're going back into the water. We know when to stop the river, but today we're going to learn how to make the river flow even faster and more smoothly between those pauses. Today, we're unlocking Contraction Mastery.
Before we get into the mechanics of squeezing words together, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're getting value out of this 50-episode journey and you want to support the show, please hit the like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the absolute best way to help us reach more learners who are stuck in the translation trap and need a blueprint to find their fluency. Thanks so much for being part of this movement.
Now, Ben, let's talk about contractions. For a lot of traditional English learners, the word contraction actually brings up feelings of guilt.
Guilt's the perfect word for it. When we learn English in a traditional classroom setting, especially in countries where English is taught strictly for academic or testing purposes, contractions are strictly forbidden. Teachers will draw massive red circles around them on your essays.
They drill it into your head that you must write, "I do not know," instead of, "I don't know." They tell you that contractions are lazy, unprofessional, informal, and basically a sign of bad English.
And while that might be true for a formal university research paper, it's a complete lie when it comes to spoken English. In spoken English, refusing to use contractions actually makes you sound robotic, overly formal, and sometimes even a little bit angry.
Exactly. If we're sitting at a coffee shop and I ask you if you want a pastry and you look at me and say, "I do not want one," I'm going to think I offended you. The lack of a contraction feels harsh. It feels like a wall.
But if you say, "I don't want one," it feels relaxed and friendly. Contractions are the absolute standard for spoken English. From the president giving a speech on television, to a CEO in a boardroom, to friends at a pub, native speakers use contractions constantly.
They're mandatory for fluency. If you want to ride the rhythm of the language, you've got to use them. So today, we're going to break down the different levels of contractions, starting from the basic grammar words and moving all the way up to advanced spoken reductions.
Let's start with the basics, what we call standard pronoun contractions. These are the ones you probably already know from your textbooks, but you mightn't be pronouncing them optimally for fast speech.
We're talking about taking a pronoun like I, you, he, she, it, we, or they, and crashing it into a verb like am, is, are, have, will, or would.
Let's look at the verb to be. I am becomes I'm. You are becomes your. He is becomes he's. She is becomes she's. It is becomes its. We are becomes we're. They are becomes their.
Now, visually, on paper, that makes perfect sense. You just erase a letter and put an apostrophe in its place. But physically, in your mouth, something much more important's happening. You're removing an entire syllable.
That's the key to the speed. You're going from 2 beats to 1 beat. I am 2 beats. I'm 1 beat. You're literally speaking twice as fast without moving your mouth any faster.
And the pronunciation of these words often trips up learners because they try to hold on to the original vowel sounds. Let's look at the word there. T-H-E-Y''re. A lot of students try to say they are, just pushing the two full words close together.
But a native speaker doesn't do that. The word there's pronounced exactly the same as the location word there, T-H-E-R-E, and the possessive word there, T-H-E-I-R. They're all identical. There, there, there.
Listen to how efficient that is. They're going to the store. It's just one smooth sound. What about we are? Students often say we are.
We reduce that to we're, and in fast connected speech, it often just sounds like the word were. We're going to be late. We're going to be late. We don't stretch out the E sound, we squeeze it to fit the rhythm.
Let's move to the have contractions. I have becomes I've. You have becomes you've. We have becomes we've. They have becomes they've. He has becomes he's. She has becomes she's.
Notice that he's and she's can mean either he is or he has. The context of the sentence tells you which one it is. If I say he's walking the dog, it means he is. If I say he's been to London, it means he has. Native speakers process this context instantly without thinking about it.
I've been there.
The will contractions are another great example of this. I will becomes I'll. You will becomes you'll. He will becomes he'll. She will becomes she'll. It will becomes it'll. We will becomes we'll. They will becomes they'll.
Let's talk about the pronunciation of I'll, because this one causes a lot of friction. Students try to clearly pronounce the I and the L, I'll.
In natural speech, the word I'll often sounds exactly like the word all, A-L-L, or the word I'll, A-I-S-L-E. I'll see you tomorrow. It's a very lazy, dark L sound at the back of the throat. I'll be right back.
And look at it will. It becomes it'll. This is a fascinating one because it creates a new rhythm. It'll be fine. We don't say it will be fine. That's too much mouth movement.
What about the would contractions? I would becomes I'd. You would becomes you'd. He would becomes he'd. She would becomes she'd. We would becomes we'd. They would becomes they'd.
Here, you're just attaching a soft D sound to the pronoun. I'd love to go. We'd better leave now. It's incredibly soft. You barely pop the D. If you push the D too hard, you stop the continuous airflow we learned about in episode 3.
Those are the standard pronoun contractions. They're the bread and butter of daily English. You've got to force yourself to use them. If you write a script for yourself to practice, don't write out the full words. Write the contractions. Train your eyes to read them and your mouth to speak them.
Now, let's step up to the next category, which is where things start to get a bit more complex. These are the negative contractions. This is when we attach the word not to a verb.
Do not becomes don't. Does not becomes doesn't. Did not becomes didn't. Are not becomes aren't. Is not becomes isn't. Have not becomes haven't. Has not becomes hasn't. Will not becomes won't. Would not becomes wouldn't. Can not becomes can't. Should not becomes shouldn't. Could not becomes couldn't.
That's a massive list, but they all follow a very similar phonetic rule. The O in the word not completely disappears, and we're left with an N and a T smashed together at the end of the word. N-T.
But here's the massive secret to sounding like a native English speaker. In natural, fast English, we almost never pronounce that final T.
This is a huge revelation for learners. You're taught to spell it with a T, so you logically try to pronounce it with a clear, sharp T. Don't, didn't, can't, with a big explosion of air at the end.
But remember what we learned in episode 3 about elision. When you've got a heavy consonant like a T at the end of a word, it stops the river from flowing. So native speakers just drop it. We use what's called a stop T, or a glottal stop.
A glottal stop means you start to make the T sound. You bring your tongue up to the roof of your mouth to stop the air, but you never release the explosion. You trap the air in your throat.
Listen to the difference. A robotic speaker says, "I don't know," with a sharp T. A native speaker says, "I don't know." The T's swallowed. The air stops abruptly after the N. I don't know.
I didn't see it.
This creates a major listening comprehension problem for students, particularly with the words can and can't. If the native speaker doesn't pronounce the T at the end of can't, how do you know if they're saying the positive can or the negative can't?
This ties perfectly back to episode 2, the schwa secret. Remember, the positive word can is a function word. It gets reduced to a lazy schwa. I can go. I can do it. It's very fast and quiet.
But the negative word can't is a content word. It carries crucial meaning. So we hit it with sentence stress. We make the vowel long and loud, and we use a wide, open A sound. Even if we drop the final T, the vowel tells the whole story.
Let's demonstrate. Ben, tell me you've the ability to swim.
I can swim.
Now tell me you don't have the ability to swim.
I can't swim. Listen to the vowel. Can't. I didn't even pop the T at the end, but you know it's negative because the vowel was stretched and strexed. I can't swim. This is the magic of the rhythm of fluency. The grammar's communicated through the music, not just the letters. If you try to say, I can swim with a big, loud vowel, a native speaker will think you're saying you can't swim, and confusion will follow.
So, with all negative contractions, focus on the stress. Hit the word hard, make the vowel clear, and then just trap the air at the end. Don't worry about popping the T. He doesn't like it. We wouldn't do that. They haven't finished.
Now that we've covered standard and negative contractions, we've got to talk about the final boss of English reductions. These are what we call informal contractions.
Some people call them slang, but that's actually completely incorrect. Slang's vocabulary that's specific to a generation or a subculture, like saying something's cool or lit. Informal contractions aren't slang. They're standard, universal phonetic reductions caused by speaking quickly. Every native speaker uses them.
We're talking about words like gonna, wanna, gotta, hafta, lemme, gimme, kinda, and sorta.
Let's break these down because they're the absolute core of conversational flow. Going to becomes gonna. I am going to the store becomes I'm gonna go to the store.
Want to becomes wanna. I want to leave becomes I wanna leave. Notice we don't just reduce the word to, we actually smash the two words together into a brand new two-syllable word, wanna.
Gotta becomes gotta. I have got to go becomes I gotta go. The two T sounds merge into a soft, fast D sound, gotta. I gotta go.
Have to becomes hafta. I have to work becomes I have to work. The V sound in have physically transforms into an F sound because it's crashing into the unvoiced T of to, hafta.
Lemme becomes lemmy. Let me see it becomes lemme see it. The T disappears entirely and the M stretches out. Lemme.
Gimme becomes gimme. Give me a second becomes gimme a second. The V drops out and the M takes over. Gimme.
Kinda becomes kinda. It is kind of cold becomes it's kind of cold. The F drops off the word of, and we're left with a lazy schwa, kinda.
Sort of becomes sorta. I am sort of tired becomes I'm sorta tired.
It's vital to understand native speakers aren't actively choosing to be lazy when they use these words. It's physically uncomfortable and unnatural to say, I am going to go to the store and get a cup of coffee. The mouth begs for the shortcut. I'm gonna go to the store and get a cup of coffee.
Now, here's the golden rule for informal contractions. You absolutely must use them when you're speaking if you want to sound natural. However, you should almost never write them down, unless you're texting a close friend.
That's where the confusion comes from. Because you don't see them written in books or news articles, your brain assumes they aren't real words. But written English and spoken English are two completely different languages with different rule sets.
In written English, you follow the rules of the page. You write going to. In spoken English, you follow the rules of the mouth. You say gonna. You've got to separate the two in your mind.
I want to touch on one more advanced area of contractions, which is what happens when we start stacking them on top of each other. Native speakers love efficiency so much, we'll occasionally create double contractions.
Oh, these are fascinating. This happens most often with modal verbs in the past tense, words like would have, could have, and should have.
A textbook tells you to write I would have. A first-level contraction makes it I would've. But in fast speech, we crush it even further into I'd've. I''D''VE.
I'd have done it differently. Listen to that. Ida. 3 words reduced to 2 tiny syllables. Ida.
We also do this with could've and should've, but instead of double apostrophes, they just morph into new sounds altogether. Could've becomes could've, which sounds like coulda. I coulda been a contender.
Should've becomes shoulda, which sounds like shoulda. You shoulda told me earlier.
And would have becomes would've, which sounds like woulda. I woulda gone if it wasn't raining. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's the language of regret, but it flows so smoothly.
This phonetic blending is actually the cause of a very common grammar mistake made by native English speakers. 'Cause would've sounds exactly like the words would of. You'll frequently see native speakers write out, I would've gone.
Yes, it drives English teachers crazy, but it proves our point perfectly. Native speakers learn the language by ear, not by eye. They hear the schwa sound and the v sound, and their brain writes down the word of, because they don't even realize they're using a contraction of the word have.
That tells you everything you need to know about the dominance of the schwa and connected speech. The sound overrides the spelling even for people born in the country.
So how'd you master all of these contractions? How'd you take them from a theoretical concept and build them into your physical muscle memory?
You can't do it by filling out worksheets. Writing don't 100 times on a piece of paper won't make your tongue move any faster. You've got to practice them physically.
You've got to return to the shadowing technique. When you shadow a native speaker, you must mimic their reductions perfectly. If they say gonna, you aren't allowed to say going to. You must match their laziness.
You also need to start visualizing sentences differently. When you see the words do not on a page, your brain needs to automatically translate it into the sound of don't. You need to read with the rhythm of fluency, not the rhythm of the printing press.
Which brings us to your mission for episode 6. Your homework for this week's gonna challenge your eyes and your mouth.
I want you to find a short paragraph of formal English text. It could be from a news website, a business report, or an academic article. the kind of text that uses 0 informal contractions.
Notice how rigid and formal it feels in your mouth.
Then I want you to take a pen and manually edit the text. Cross out every I am and write I'm. Cross out every have not and write haven't. Look for places where you can change going to into gonna or have to into hafta.
You're translating written English into spoken English. You're adding the conversational shortcuts.
Once you've fully contracted the paragraph, read it out loud again. Focus on linking those new contracted words to the words around them. Feel how much faster you can get from the beginning of a sentence to the end without losing your breath.
After you've done that, come down into the comments section. We want you to type out one sentence from your paragraph in its original, formal state, and then type out the fully contracted, spoken version right below it.
For example, I do not want to go to the store because I do not have any money. And then below it, type, I don't want to go to the store because I don't have any money.
Show us how you're destroying the formal boundaries and embracing the river. We love seeing your examples, and it helps the whole community realize how much we all shrink the language when we speak.
Contractions Mastery, a massive milestone. When you stop fighting the urge to pronounce every letter, you suddenly find yourself keeping up with native speakers effortlessly.
You're doing incredible work. We've covered the engine, the melody, the pauses, and now the shortcuts. Your spoken English is transforming episode by episode.
In our next episode, episode 7, we're going to dive into the subtle power of vowels. We're going to look at vowel length and meaning and how making a sound just a fraction of a second longer can completely change what you're saying.
It's a deep dive into the micro details of pronunciation that make the difference between sounding like a student and sounding like a pro. You definitely won't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on the squeeze. Crush those pronouns. Swallow those T's. Embrace the gonna and the wanna.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you've enjoyed mastering contractions today, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Keep the river flowing.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
a piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.